Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Forloveness. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Ryan.
How are you today? Tonight, actually.
I'm pretty good. I'm excited to get this episode done. We've been working really hard on it.
I think that this one is going to end up being a favorite for sure.
I think so. I hope that it helps people. We're going to get very vulnerable today and talk about a lot of personal stories, very personal stories in some cases.
And last week was a hard one for everyone.
It was. And what we're doing today is we're actually answering the question that gets asked a lot in these situations, which is not so much of God, where were you? But it's how could you have let this happen to me? You're all powerful, almighty. How could you let this happen?
Why? Why, God?
So we're going to answer that today, but we're going to frame it a little differently than we normally do and use a lot of personal stories and then back that up with some scripture from several stories.
So when we were looking at things, we realized that first and foremost, God is always there. And while sometimes it might not feel like it, his hand is always on your life and he's always moving pieces around. And there's multiple different reasons God can allow hard things to happen. And one of them is that he uses suffering to prepare you for your calling.
He does. And we're going to use a lot of examples from our personal life right now and tie them to biblical stories. So the first one is the story of Joseph, which you can read in Genesis. It's about a betrayal, extreme suffering, all to build him up to be able to do what God needed him to do.
Yeah. And when me and Ryan were talking about this, it's made me, we kind of thought of this story about some betrayal that I've had in my life. And I will say that at this point in my life, I was not close to God at all. And that does play a big part in this. I had gone out with some people from work who I thought were my friends, but definitely were not. I ended up out with these girls and we ended up at a strip club. I was not 21, so that's the first thing right there. I definitely didn't need to be there just because of my age. And I was following them around because I wanted to fit in, and I ended up taking a shot with some of these girls and got drugged. And I remember the moment. I remember sitting down and kind of passing out from that. Fast forward, the club closes, I'm passed out, and I get thrown into a cab, and the cab doesn't take me home. The cab driver takes me to a hotel and rapes me.
That must have been really hard.
Yeah, the girls that I was with, the girls that I trusted who were all older than me too, and that I worked with, they left me.
Yeah.
They left me there, and I had no way to get home, and I had nobody to protect me. But I will say that I thank God that I ended up safe and sound the next day in my bed at home with my family, because that situation could have turned so much worse. And this is something that I had to forgive. I had to forgive the people that I worked with. I had to forgive the man that did this to me. And now I'm able to help other people that have gone through the same thing. Genesis 50:20 says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people."
No, that's amazing. I feel that even though you felt God wasn't with you, he was with you.
Oh, yeah, for
and
sure.
Totally preparing you for this journey that we're currently on, and the one that we already know is coming after.
Right. But I was somewhere that I didn't need to be. I was not in a godly place.
Right. And I think that's partly because you were not with God at that time of your life, and you're easily swept up by the enemy. And the enemy maybe had a good idea that you were a light, and he was trying to bring you into the darkness and wreck you and hope that you would remain there with him. And not only were you not with God, but completely shun him and stay away from him because of what happened to you. And that's what God is really good at, is taking these situations and flipping them on the enemy.
Yeah.
And taking someone that is in complete despair and building them up and bringing them up and letting them do important work for his kingdom.
Yeah. He was He definitely was there in that situation.
And that was several years ago for you. So it's taken a lot of time for that healing and that understanding and you to sort of refine yourself and your character and get closer to God so that you could talk about this willingly. Some people aren't even able to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's harder for me to hear you say it than it is for you to say it.
Yeah.
Probably same with some of the things that I deal with.
I just focus on how lucky I was to wake up unharmed the next day and go home and be at home with my family. I honestly feel so lucky.
Yeah, this isn't a big city where that doesn't always happen that way. Usually it's a much sadder situation.
It could have been much worse, but again,
sometimes God allows that betrayal that breaks us because it's the only way to position you so that he can use you for your destiny.
God can also use your suffering to refine you.
Yeah, he definitely can. And that reminds me of a story that I have. This has been about 10 years now, and I suffered from a brain injury at work, and everything completely collapsed around me. My family life collapsed. My work was gone. I was in despair. I had really questioned God. And the question I asked right away was, why? How could you do this to me?
Your identity, you felt like it was gone.
Yeah, I wasn't away from God. I wasn't close to him, but I was very aware of God, and I talked to God. I prayed to God. I read scriptures not faithfully, but I did. I went to church not faithfully, but I did. But when this happened, it really pushed me away. I really started to question, and I was, again, for another time in my life, very angry with God. And I went the complete 180 opposite direction of what I needed to do. What I needed to do was really step into God.
Right.
But I didn't. And early on in that, I felt like no one understood me.
Yeah.
And as I look back, I realized that he put people in my life in situations that had suffered it. Probably at times that I needed to hear it the most.
Right.
People that knew what I was going through, and they could talk to me about it. Because I wouldn't listen to anybody else. I wouldn't listen to doctors or family or anyone else because I knew they didn't know what I was going through and what I was feeling. But I've often said to you and to others that looking into this now, that I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't go back because I know that it has changed me for the good. And I still struggle with it. I still don't drive a vehicle. There's things that I still can't do. I've learned in this time to manage my life in a way to be able to get through it. But we spend a lot of time together, and you know that I have issues and things that I can't do well. And so I feel like I'm still learning from this, but I also am grateful to it. I'm grateful that it wasn't worse, because when it first happened, I remember asking God, is this going to be it? Like, is this what I'm going to be for the rest of my life? I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. And as that time changed and as the time went on, I realized that this was a good thing ultimately, and it would be a good thing. And it's gotten better, obviously, but there is more to come from this. I think I'm still learning and being refined from this. And what this reminded me of was the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15:20-24. So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming, filled with love and compassion. He ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. For this son of mine was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. That reminds me of now. I was very far away. I was angry with God, but he never left me.
Yeah.
And now that I'm back with him, he's welcomed me with open arms, maybe more than he ever has before.
Of course.
And so in this time, he's really exposed my weakness and tested me a lot to reveal my strength.
Yeah.
And when that enemy attacks you and destroys you, God just sits there and develops you. And I feel like I'm still being developed today.
And God can also use your suffering to deliver others also.
Absolutely. And that still kind of taps into my brain injury and my first marriage and my fatherhood, my identity, everything that I was. I had just cascading failure. When that happened, my marriage that was already rocky fell apart. I was unable to provide for my children or my family for that matter. My identity had been stripped. I had a career and I was that. I was, this dad and I was a firefighter and I was all these things. And all of a sudden in literally one day, it was just vanished up in thin air. And there was nothing I could do about it. That was very difficult to sit there and not be able to do anything. And the more I tried, the worse it got.
Yeah.
And I think that's important is because I was the one trying.
Right.
I wasn't ever going to God and asking God because I was angry. I didn't want to talk to him because I feel like he let this happen to me when I felt like I didn't deserve it. I probably did, right? I think we all do. But I felt sort of stuck in the consequences of everything I had probably done in not calling on God when I needed to. And that failure sent me just spiraling out of control. Honestly, it caused me to lose everything. But now I can see that my time in the wilderness, like Moses, 40 years in the desert, my time in that wilderness I'm on my way back to set people free. In Exodus chapter 3, 1 and 2, one day Moses was tending the flock of his father-in-law, and he came to Sinai, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a blazing fire in the middle of a bush. Then the Lord told him, "Now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people, Israel, out of Egypt." This makes me think of all these last two stories I gave, the struggles and the fire that is refining me and the iron that is sharpening me to be able to answer this calling that he gave me. If he would have given me this calling 6 months ago, even, I would have no way been able to do it. And 2 or 3 years ago, I would have completely not answered the call. I would have just hit ignore and moved on.
And other people now are going to be able to reap the benefits of your suffering
experiences.
Yeah.
I think if we will take all of our suffering that we have to go through and understand it is for a greater good, or there is a greater good that will come out of it. It may not be I can guarantee it won't be when we want it to be.
Yeah.
I've got this brain injury is a 10-year epic at this point, and I'm still not through it. And I'm still not in a position to help people the way that I want to help them. But that pain and suffering that I've endured helps me become an authority that I can carry this. Just like the people that helped me talk about it, that talked to me about it, that understood, I now actually have that experience that I can help people, and I have.
Yeah.
And you've seen, I'm more than willing to share that story because it's just easier when you know someone that's gone through these things. Yeah. Failed marriages, struggling to not be able to provide as a man, not being able to provide for your children, that is very difficult.
Right.
And God also uses our suffering to reveal our strengths. Like the thorn in Paul's side, he finds power in unremoved weakness.
Yeah, and we talked earlier today about some of the things that I've struggled with in the past. For a long time, I struggled with an eating disorder. And, that began at the beginning of high school. And it consumed me. It tore me down and it made me miss out on a lot of things. I didn't go really to high school at all. I didn't get to have the experiences that all my friends had. I didn't get to go to prom and all of the dances and all that stuff. And for a long time, it was very hard for me. I didn't get to go to college, and I still think about sometimes, did I miss out on that experience?
But God didn't need you in those experiences. You were going to school. You were going to college. You were going to God's college. Not everyone can handle the things that you've dealt with.
Well, and that specifically, I think, led to me moving to Texas. I didn't grow up in Texas. I grew up in Missouri. And if I wouldn't have had such a hard time at that point in my life, I don't think I would have moved to Texas, and my life would not be where it is today if I wouldn't have.
You also wouldn't have experienced the first story you shared.
Right. Yeah.
Which
definitely not.
So you would not have been able to speak on that and help people with that.
Yeah.
Or the eating disorder.
Yeah.
Or the other things that you deal with.
Yeah. Something else too that I deal with is a couple of years ago, actually, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
I remember.
And I think that that's probably one of the hardest times of my life. I know it was definitely the hardest thing for our relationship.
For sure. I can see though the benefits that it had ultimately if you're able to get through it.
Right. I was not doing well at that time. That was one of the worst places I've ever been in my life mentally. It was very hard. I didn't know what was going on in my mind. I didn't know why I was having the feelings that I was having. I didn't know why I was having the thoughts that I was having. And I was also destroying you at the same time.
Yeah, but had I not had experience with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, all these things in my own life, I probably would not have been able to deal with what you were going through.
Because I had no idea at the time.
Right. And I could see that you were in there. I knew that you were in there.
Mm-hmm. You mean like my mom, like there was still a real part of me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I could see that you were in there, and I was struggling because at the time I didn't know what was going on, but I knew this wasn't you just
being mad one day.
Yeah. You didn't just wake up and decide all these changes were going to happen and this was the end of everything. And, you were going to go do whatever you were going to go do.
I mean, I think we can quickly elaborate. I was very angry. A lot of times I was very destructive. I mean, I was breaking things in the house, which is not me at all.
Right. Yeah. You were definitely acting uncharacteristic.
I was drinking a lot, which is not me. I don't drink a ton. I was just so angry. You know, I was just the opposite of who I really am.
But luckily you had some support.
Yeah.
Me, you had a friend. Your mother was a great help to me.
But I think in the end, it really strengthened our relationship.
I think it did. I think it gave us both understanding. I already knew you had my back. And now you knew I had yours.
And this is exactly what we said at the beginning. He used this suffering to reveal the strength in you, the strength in me, and the strength in us in our relationship. Yeah. In 2 Corinthians 12:8-9, it says, 3 different times I begged the Lord to take it away. Each time he said, my grace is all you need. My power works best in weakness. So now I'm glad to boast about my weakness so that the power of Christ can work through me.
Yeah, sometimes that thorn in our side is what makes us stronger. And we use those experiences to do our best works for God.
Yeah.
Without all these experiences that we've shared up to now,
we wouldn't be where we are right now.
And we would have no, I don't like the word authority, but we would have no place to speak on almost anything that we talk about.
Right.
We have had to forgive everyone, including ourselves and God. I mean, I've shared 2 stories where I was very angry with God.
Right.
And like the father he is, he was always willing to welcome us both back with open arms, no matter what we did.
And our cousin the other day actually framed this or worded this in such a great way. He said, we don't have to forgive God because God doesn't need any forgiving, right? Like he does everything right. He's perfect. We don't have to forgive God because God needs to be forgiven, but we have to forgive God for ourselves in our own mind.
Yeah, it helps with the entire process that he wants for us.
And he uses our suffering to reveal a strength, and he can also use our suffering to build an unusual faith.
Yeah, and I got some news recently. I think we all deal with this when we are watching someone we love suffer through an illness, or even if we lose someone close to us in our life, but have zero power to change the circumstances. It forces us into that position of total dependence.
Yeah.
Where you've got to put down everything you've ever relied on and say, I can't do this, but I know who can.
Yep.
That reminds me of a story in Matthew, the Roman centurion.
Yes.
Matthew 8:8, he says, but the officer said, Lord, I am not worthy to have you come into my home. Just say the word from where you are, and my servant will be healed. This is his total reliance on God because he commanded people. He had a lot of authority within within the army,
Right.
the Roman army. And he had to stop everything. He could fix anything he wanted to except something like this. And he had to go to Jesus and
He got down on his knees
and display total faith in him. And he was a Gentile man.
Yeah.
And Jesus even said, in no one in Israel have I found this type of faith.
Yeah.
And, then he said, rise, go, it has been done for you because according to your faith.
Right.
That doesn't mean that God is going to heal everyone you want him to heal when you pray to him.
Right.
It does happen. I've seen it happen. You've seen it happen. We've all heard stories. But there is a plan, and we don't know the plan.
And he breaks you down so that the only option that you have is to be fully reliant on him. That's what he wants.
It is. In Isaiah 55, verse 8 and 9, for my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than yours, and my thoughts than your thoughts. This is telling us that we really don't know what's going on, and we have to trust him. If you believe in God and you believe in your salvation, you know that Jesus, he's coming through for you.
He's got your back. Yeah.
Yes. And even though in the moment you may not see this as a good thing, it is a good thing. It's just not a good thing for us in that moment. And he understands that, and he's sad with us.
Yes.
That leads me to the story in Lazarus in John 11:35, the shortest, but one of the most powerful verses in the Bible. It just says Jesus wept, which shows his human emotions and his sadness with us. And God uses suffering to display his power, even his resurrection power at times.
Yeah, this makes me think of my dad. Growing up my whole entire life, I had a really hard time with my dad. He wasn't around very much. And even when he started to come around, it wasn't the relationship that I was looking for. I tried for years and years to have that father-daughter, that close father-daughter bond. And I prayed for my father to be present and to love me. And eventually that hope just died. And after a long time of suffering and just being so sad that it wasn't happening, that hope kind of just died. And God didn't answer that prayer. I do have my stepdad who is so amazing and who I'm so thankful for. But there was always something that I felt like was missing a little bit, and I was looking for my father in that. And what I realized is that after I put to death that hope for my father to be there with me, Jesus revealed himself as my faithful father and provided his presence in a relationship in a way that wouldn't have been possible if the original hope had been fulfilled.
Yeah, and you may not have your stepfather in your life.
Yeah, that's
also
very true.
Who is, he's a great guy. He's a godly guy. He's always willing to talk to you about scripture.
Yeah.
And answer questions if you need it. So yeah, because he didn't answer this prayer, he revealed something much bigger and much better, and a way better plan.
Yeah. In John 11:40 says, Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe?"
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. That's really exactly answers what the questions that you had. If you would just believe, he's going to take care of everything. But we try to do things in our own time, in our own way, in our own will, and it usually doesn't work out.
And it's what we think we want and what we think will be the best for us. But in reality, God's plan is always better.
What is that quote you said to me that one day you came up with? You said, your earthly father gives you what you want, and your heavenly father gives you what you need.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly it. Dad, I need money. Dad, I need new clothes. Dad, I need water.
If you believe enough, your heavenly father will give you those things as well.
Yeah, that's true too.
Seems to work out for us that way anyways.
Yeah. God uses suffering to prepare you, suffering to refine you, suffering to deliver others, reveal strength, build faith, to display resurrection power, but also to refine character and strengthen your faith.
Yeah, when I think about some of the past struggles I've gone through in my life as a result of some of the other struggles I've gone through,
yeah,
I think about past drug use, self-harm. I used to cut on myself, unhealthy relationships with people, with women in particular, but also with just people I shouldn't be hanging around with because they were dragging me down.
Right.
And for a long time, that's who I was. And that was my shelter. That's what I was doing. But God was sifting me out, or allowing me to be sifted out, allowing all the weakness to come out of me and that strength to remain.
Yeah.
And as my relationship with God has gotten better, those old chains, they've been broken, most of them long ago. And that's where I realized that Christ's prayers, and he does pray for us, but Christ's prayers for us are much stronger than and more powerful than our own failures.
Yeah.
We hold on to those failures because, again, this is earthly and this is what we see. But, take you back to that Isaiah 55 passage where it says, we don't know what's going on, basically.
Yes.
Right? We have no idea what's going on. I've got it. You just sit back and relax, which seems it's really hard for us to do, but it's
so simple.
It's so simple and it's so much easier to do.
Yes.
When you really can surrender everything, things tend to move slower. They move easier. There's less stress because God can just handle it.
Yeah.
He can handle everything.
You don't have to control it anymore.
No, that's a big issue as well. Control that we do.
Yes.
We try to control every aspect of our life. And in reality, the only one that's going to control it is God. And all the struggles we go through, whether it be drug use or self-mutilation or unhealthy relationships or finances or kids, anything.
Right.
All that is to sift us out, shake out the bad, keep the good. As long as we're giving it to Christ, those chains are broken and we can move on with our life and be much easier. If your only job every day is to worship God, you're going to have a much easier life. And it is much easier to stay away from those things, even when they rear their ugly head. And the accuser, as I read these things, some of these things I've forgotten about.
Yeah.
They've been a long time ago, but it's almost like I'm looking at them and that accuser is in my ear saying, oh, you remember that? Remember how good that felt when you were down? Maybe next time you're down, you just slide back a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't need that.
Yeah.
Nothing I've ever done in my life feels as good as God being in my life.
So true.
In the scriptures, in Luke 22, verse 31 and 32, Jesus is talking to Peter, but he's calling him by his original name. He says, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat, but I have pleaded in prayer for you, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers. All these things that we go through, and we've talked about this over and over, each thing we've done and had to go through has made us stronger. And it's allowed us to strengthen our brothers because we can talk to people about things we've been through and understand, just like other people that have been through it can also talk to us and help us.
Yeah.
We're not the authority on anything. God's the authority on everything, but he gives us the ability to get through these struggles and strengthen ourselves to be able to help other people and not just help them. Yeah. And not just help them get through their troubles, but help them get to Christ who will get them through their troubles.
Yes.
It's not us getting, or the therapist or whoever, or the doctor or the medication getting people through it.
Right.
It's Christ getting them through it. And God lets what's weak in us break so that what's strong can remain.
Yeah. And that brings us to the last section, which is where we talk about how God brings the greatest good from the greatest suffering.
Yeah. And that's where we take it back to episode 6 a little bit and talk about for me personally, childhood sexual abuse. And we can even go back to your assault that you went through. But it's the foundational evil that the enemy uses. Like we said, there's a trinity of evil to lie, to kill, and destroy. But the power of the cross answers this question. What can you do with this? It'll take the very worst thing that's ever happened to you and make it the source of your greatest authority and the proof of his redemptive power.
Yeah.
When you go through these worst case scenarios in your life, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
Some things that you've been through, I could never handle, and vice versa, right? Some things that are a big deal to me might not be a big deal to somebody else. But for us, the worst thing that we have ever gone through makes it the source of our greatest authority and the
Mhm.
proof of his redemptive power.
Yeah.
In Romans 5:8, but God showed his great love for us by sending Christ to die for us while we were still sinners.
2 Corinthians 5:21 says, "For God made Christ, who never sinned, to be the offering for our sin, so that we could be made right with God through Christ."
If God can bring good from the cross, then there's no situation he can't redeem. The crucifixion is what the enemy thought was going to give him the victory.
Yeah.
But again, what God did was take that horrible evil and
Mhm.
spin it for the greatest good.
Yes.
So from Joseph to the cross, every story of suffering is really a story about forgiveness.
Mhm.
It's about forgiving others, forgiving God for his mysterious ways, receiving forgiveness for our past, and understanding that the ultimate suffering of Christ is the very engine that makes all forgiveness possible. Your suffering is not outside of this story. It is the very place where God wants to meet you with the power to both receive and extend his costly, transformative forgiveness.
That was so good.
And I know that we have not actually asked this yet or even mentioned this. And there's a reason we wanted to get everything done. And at this point, I would love to ask if any of this helped you, any of these episodes helped you, to share them and pass them forward.
Mm.
The hope is that people will spread this word of forgiveness and love to other people that may benefit from it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today, everyone. I hope that you were able to get something out of this message. I hope that this helped you and can hopefully help you in the future whenever you're going through a tough time.